Fools. Huh. He didn't shoot.
Consequences.
Hello everyone, welcome back to NARKDesign, the only channel on YouTube dedicated to collecting, cataloging, and engineering fascinating firearms from both the real world and other worlds, beloved and beyond. I'm Nark, and in front of me are the High Table Dueling Pistols from John Wick 4. Or at least this one is. Well, okay, technically this one is too. They technically both are. I'll explain. Just roll the clip. So, obviously one of these does not look like the other, yet I still said that they are the same pistol, and that's because they are. Let me explain. What I'm holding up now is the Thompson Center Encore pistol, chambered in .45 long Colt ammunition. It's a very real, not fictional, firearm, and there's lots to say about it. But let's real fast change our focus to the other pistol. This pistol is the same dueling pistol you're familiar with and saw at the end of John Wick 4. However, it is also a Thompson Center Encore pistol, just modified and customized for the film. The actual operational and key parts, all the guts, so to speak, in this gun, are the same as the standard Thompson Center Encore pistol beside it. The Encore pistol was the evolution of its predecessor, the Contender pistol, which was also designed and manufactured by Thompson Center. The Contender pistol was introduced first in 1967 as a single-shot, breech-loaded pistol with a very revolutionary modular design, allowing for easy and fast barrel changes that were manufactured in a wide range of calibers, leading it to be praised by hunters and competitive shooters at the time due to this empowering flexibility. The Contender supported within one central frame both handgun and rifle-powered cartridges, still in that silhouette and package profile of a handgun, ranging from the itsy-bitsy tiny 22 LR all the way to the behemoth round of 45-70 Government. In 1998, Thompson Center revitalized and modernized the popular Contender design in the form of the Encore pistol, which is what we are looking at today. The Encore boasted a better trigger and breech action system to allow for even faster reloads and barrel swaps, as well as a beefier and stronger frame to ensure even further safety when firing those large caliber rounds from the pistol, which in turn also expanded the list of calibers that the Contender supported to an even larger, more powerful array of caliber rounds with the Encore. Now, let's move our focus back to the star of the show today, the High Table Dueling Pistol featured in John Wick 4. The changes and modifications made to transform it from the standard Encore pistol to the High Table Dueling Pistol we see in the film and here are mostly the handle, front grip, the custom barrel, and, of course, those beautiful custom engravings that were done on the frame of the gun. The custom gunsmith and engraving work for the John Wick 4 film, for this weapon in particular, was done by Melissa McMinn. So before we go any further in the video, first want to make sure to give her a massive shout out for her work, as well as inform you guys that she has a website and a blog where she talks about this project specifically and other projects she's done in the past, and it's really, really interesting and fascinating stuff. So we'll put the link on the screen now, and we will make sure it's in the description. So definitely go check out her stuff. Without her cataloging her process of helping create this piece for the film, this video would be a lot more difficult. And she's very talented and her work is very cool. So definitely go check out her stuff. Another point that I should make real quick is that while we try our hardest here at NARKDesign to make our models as accurate as we can to real world or source media counterparts, with reference and source material that we are able to retrieve, these models are, like all of the models that we make here, recreations. I wanted to make sure that was clear now, because looking at the custom engraving patterns on the frame of the dueling pistol while the patterns were redrawn by our engineering team to match Melissa's original work, they don't line up perfectly to what is seen on images of the real thing. And that just has to do with our process here of reconstructing and recreating these weapons as 3D models and doing our own workflow to get to that final point. So some dimensions might not be perfect, and as such, the engravings might not be aligned perfectly or where they should be on the real piece. Regardless, it still looks badass. We've got the skull on the upper part of the frame here with the rest of that kind of engraving, I guess you would call leaf or pattern work coming out of its open jaw. There's more of that same patterned engraving seen below it on the lower part of the frame as well. And it just looks so damn good on our final model here and in the showroom under good lighting. So I can't be happier with how our recreation came out. All that to say, of course, again, need to make sure I mention this as many times as I can, the patterns and original work here were all done by Melissa McMinn for the real one used in the film. So if you want to see how her work looks in reality, head on over to her blog. She's got some great pictures there. Both the handle and the foregrip pieces were replaced with custom wood-shaped furniture, and while the front grip may look relatively the same as the original standard Encore front grip in terms of, I guess, its overall shape and profile, it is ever so slightly thicker around all of its edges. The handle, on the other hand, is a much more unique and original shape compared to the standard Encore handle. A much more, I guess you could say, simplified, rounded, and smooth profile with these two emblem inserts on either end. And finally, the custom barrel on the High Table Dueling Pistol does away with the back and front sights that are standard to the Encore, and instead boasts an overlaid kind of metal decorative base plate at the front that surrounds this single ballpoint front sight. Now, as we mentioned earlier, the two pistols are essentially, well, the same pistol, meaning they operate exactly the same. So, no matter which one I choose to use to demonstrate or explain the weapon's functionality, it will make pretty much no difference. That being said, this video is about the John Wick dueling pistols specifically, and it just looks so cool, so I'll be opting to use this bad boy for demonstrations. The pistol is a single-shot breech loader. In order to open the breech to either remove a spent casing or insert a fresh cartridge, you may be surprised to hear that there's no latch on the top or the side of the frame that releases the breech. You actually, instead, grip and pull down on the extruding spur of the trigger guard here, and that unlatches the breech to be open or lowered, gaining you access to the chamber. In John Wick 4, there's actually a few really good, detailed shots of characters doing this operation on screen, which is pretty neat, especially since, in my opinion, breech loaders are just so undeniably satisfying when portrayed in things like video games or movies or other media. Just the break action and the sound of the shells scraping out when you take it out. I'm nerding out, but it's super cool. Anyways, at this point, we can now load in the cartridge that this specific model is chambered for, which, based on our research and reconstruction of the dueling pistol from the film, it is chambered in the lovely 45 long Colt ammunition. So we can slot that in like so, and can simply now raise the breech back up and latch it back in place, and the weapon is now chambered. So all that's left to do now would be to pull this hammer back into its cocked ready position, and from there, the weapon would be ready to fire. Obviously, we aren't going to shoot it here in our beautiful showroom, so let's real quick head on over to our indoor range and we can show you guys how these pistols fire in all of their beautiful, badass glory. All right, we are back in our custom indoor range here at the NARKDesign facilities. I brought in with us to our booth here both the standard Encore pistol as well as the High Table Dueling Pistol from John Wick 4. They'll both shoot and handle pretty much the exact same, but I figured, hey, what's better than shooting one gun? Shooting two. So we will showcase both of them here in the range and maybe even both at the same time, if I trust my Akimbo skills. Let's start off with just the standard Encore model pistol. Consider it a baseline or a control to compare to how the dueling pistol variant handles and performs. we just sent a fresh target down range and are all set to go. So let's start with loading the pistol. Just going to open the breech here and slide in our single round of 45 long Colt ammunition. Now we can close this back up and make sure we hear that breech latch lock into place. All that's left to do now is aim and pull that hammer back into its cocked position and pull the trigger. So let's see how well I can do. All right, well, the first thing I'll say is 45 long Colt is no joke. I mean, there's some serious force behind that projectile from the cartridge, which also means there's some serious force coming back at me in the opposite direction in the form of recoil. I'm just a bit tingly in the wrists right now, but I'll get over it. And looking at our target, I'm actually pretty happy with that shot. At this range, these iron sights are more than serviceable. And that hit doesn't look too far off from where I was aiming, which basically was just center mass. So that's pretty neat. I'm pretty happy with that. Before picking up the dueling pistol though, last thing I'm going to do with this one is open that breech back up and get that spent casing out of there, and now we are truly clear. So we can put it aside and move on. All right, the star of the show, the High Table Dueling Pistol as seen in John Wick 4. I don't imagine it's going to handle any differently than the standard model that we just fired. However, one thing to absolutely keep in mind is that with the dueling pistol, we no longer have that standard Encore back and front iron sight setup, and instead we have just that ballpoint front sight to work with. Other than that, I think the wood furniture is a bit heavier than the standard handle and foregrip material used on the standard Encore, so maybe we can get a bit of recoil reduction. Probably nothing noticeable anyways, but I guess there's only one way to find out. So just like before, let's open this breech up, take our round of 45 long Colt, and slide that into the chamber. Close it up, and we are chambered. So let's see how well I can do. Okay, that sting in the wrists certainly didn't go away. Not that there was any reason to think it would. I will say, I think that wood handle is just much more comfortable than the standard Encore pistol handle, but I don't think the added weight of the wood itself was enough to noticeably mitigate any recoil, unfortunately. Pulling the target back to the booth to take a look, and that's actually relatively what I expected. Yeah, much more off target this time around than the shot with the standard Encore pistol, but still a hit on target nonetheless. I mean, it's definitely cool to fire, I can't deny that, and the wood is surprisingly comfortable, but I'm not so sure if there's much more to say about the High Table Dueling Pistol, besides the fact that it's a bit harder to accurately aim, because it doesn't have a back sight. I guess I could say it's cool, and it hurts, like it hurts my wrists. I imagine it also hurts to be downrange from it, but okay, obviously we won't be testing that today or any day ever. Bruised wrists be damned, I couldn't leave the range without attempting to dual wield them both and fire them at the same time. So we've already got them both reloaded with a cartridge off camera, as well as both of the hammers primed. So with one in each hand, all that's left to do is raise them up and give them a trigger pull. The only reason I'm a bit nervous for this is being a right-handed shooter, I don't know how my left wrist will respond to the recoil of one hand firing a 45 long Colt cartridge. But there's no going back now, so let's give it a go. So the only reason that was even slightly bearable was probably because of the adrenaline kicking in of Akimbo firing these things, but wow, yeah, not fun on my wrists. So let's pull the target back and take a look. I have to say, given the fact that I wasn't aiming really at all, and I'm not practiced in firing left-handed, I am shocked I actually got 2 hits on target there. Well, let's take these guys back into the showroom and maybe put some ice on my wrists, and we will be right back. If you've seen any of our previous videos on our channel, definitely subscribe and go take a look, by the way, if you're at all interested in firearms, real and fictional, you know that we are gunsmiths dedicated to rebuilding and reconstructing firearms from a wide range of media and real events. So let's take a look at some of the engraving and modeling footage provided by our engineering team for the subjects of today's video. We of course started by modeling the standard Thompson Center Encore pistol first, to later be modified and customized to match the John Wick 4 dueling pistol variant. The modeling process was relatively straightforward. Luckily, the Encore itself is actually a pretty simple design. Our researchers as well were able to source and provide for us some original schematic and engineering drawings, which helped us get us as close as possible to the real thing. One thing to note, I suppose, when modeling the standard model was making sure that right at the start of the process, we first modeled a 45 long Colt cartridge accurately so that we could bore the barrel then to the right proportions. The trigger guard gave our team a bit of trouble, for sure, especially once we learned through our research that the trigger guard itself can be pulled down away from the frame to engage that breech release. With the reference material we did have on hand, it took a bit of head scratching to understand how the trigger guard would pivot, where its connections were, and how it would sit within the frame and handle when both pulled down and when at its resting standard position. But I think with what we had on hand to use for reference material, we did a pretty good job. Once we had the standard Encore pistol recreated and finished, we made a duplicate of that model and began working on customizing it to match the John Wick 4 dueling pistol variant. I'm going to shout out the original artist who worked on the pistols seen in the film yet again, Melissa McMinn, and her website and blog, as we were able to use the images there and the information she describes about that piece to properly shape out the custom handle and foregrip pieces. We also sourced from Melissa's blog her original drawings of the engraving patterns, which I can't say enough, just to make sure everyone knows, is her original design and artwork, not our own custom representation or engraving design. And we traced over them roughly in Illustrator as an SVG path, which we then converted to a step or STP file, which allows us to import them into Plasticity and extrude the engravings as solids. We then use them as cutting tools, basically embossing or reverse embossing, applied to the frame and the emblems on both sides of the handles. The best part of applying the engravings in general was baking the engraved details onto a flat receiver solid first within Substance Painter to then get all that beautiful edge detail that we can extract in a professional tool like Substance Painter. And all of it came together in a very satisfying final result, especially after applying all the custom texture and material work within Substance Painter. John Wick is a series famous for their accurate depictions of firearms, so it was only a matter of time until we covered it in some capacity here on the channel. And we figured the dueling pistols were a great fit considering they exist both as a real-world, non-fictional firearm and as a custom, unique piece only found in the world of John Wick. We are so happy to have it cataloged and added as a part of our collection here at NARKDesign, but don't be too jealous because both the standard Encore pistol model and the John Wick dueling pistol model and all of their textures are going right into the curator vault for all of our wonderful curators to download and use in any way they see fit. So if you're interested in getting your hands on the models you've seen today, as well as other models we've created and showcased here on the channel, you can by heading over to our Patreon at patreon.com/NARKDesign. The link is also in the description, and becoming a curator yourself for only $5 a month. Curators financially support the channel, so we can't thank you guys enough, and we'll always shout you guys out on screen at the end of all of our videos. So again, big thanks to you guys. We appreciate it massively. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching. That's all we have for you today. Please make sure to subscribe, like the video, and most importantly, comment down below if there's any other weapons you want to see us bring to life from either the real world or popular media like movies and video games. And maybe one day we will do a deep dive on it. Thank you all so much. We will see you guys in the next one.